Morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Casey, where we talk about market conditions and market strategies every week. You know, you kind of think it's going to get boring, but this has been the most exciting time since 2020. So much has happened. But in order for us to know where we are and where we're going, we need to know where we came from, right? So today we're going to talk about how we got here and where we're going. This is very important. This is a mandatory for all our agents. Should be a mandatory for all real estate agents to understand the past, right? So Donnie, who runs this company, and Sarah, and they do a great job, weren't even born when a lot of the stuff that I'm about to talk about happened. And what sparked this is Samson Properties, unlike other real estate companies, is their corporate culture is about everybody sharing information, right? So Jason's done, I don't know, 190 deals so far this year. He shares. Carolyn Young, she shares. She's a big, huge agent. There's one guy, Rick Jarvis, that's down in Richmond, and he sends these newsletters almost every morning. The guy is amazing how much information he can get out. And something sparked when he said something yesterday, and he was talking about, I did not see 2008 coming, right? I didn't see it coming. And I'm like, well, I didn't see 1983 coming. I didn't see 1993 coming. I didn't see 2000. So this string of what happens, what was the event that made it happen, what happened to the market is important for us to all learn. So I'm going to in 1980, this happened because of poor financial management by the government, by the Fed, by Standard & Poor's, but certain events rock this market, and we have to know that because it's about to repeat itself again. So you got to know what happened back in the 1980s. Some of you have heard me say, watch what's happening with fuel prices. You've got to watch what's happening with fuel prices. I was like, what the hell's fuel prices got to do with real estate? Well, in 1974, there was an OPEC oil embargo. We had to sit in line waiting for gas for 2 hours to get gas. And then you only got 8 gallons of gas. Now imagine that. Oil prices, gas prices tripled. Within years, inflation was up at 17%. Interest rates were at 17%. So fuel prices went up, inflation went up, interest rates went up. Market, what happened to the market? Boom, down it went, right? So I was too young. To be honest with you, I got in 1981, didn't really realize what was going on. So yes, I was caught off guard, but interest rates soared to 17.5%. That's the 80s. So let's just summarize that one by there was government overspending, but it was the fuel prices that triggered it. So don't forget that in the future when I start talking about today's indicators. Then in 1990s, what happened was government deregulation of the savings and loan industry. What happened was on the corner, just like your federal credit unions, on the corner was mom and pop savings and loans. What they did was they made car loans, they made housing loans, they did all of this stuff. What happened in the 80s? They deregulated the S&L industry. So these residential lenders could now do commercial deals. And they did. And they did a lot of them. And they absolutely wrecked. This building that we're sitting in right now, this land, right? This whole place was wiped out. Hank Long, Long and Foster, Henry Long, owned all this land. He was developing it. But you see, the price of land plummeted. Foreclosure, they'd overlent on everything. It was just total mismanagement. And it was all because the government deregulated savings and loans and let them go ahead and invest in commercial real estate. It was an absolute disaster. It cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Back then, hundreds of billions of dollars was scary. I mean, in the early 90s, it was scary. I was going to see my landlord, and I said, I just needed to talk to him about a sign. And he goes, is somebody trying to shut you down? Is anybody trying to shut you down? I'm like, no. He goes, I'm going to cut your rent in half. How's that? Does that sound good to you? I'm going to cut your rent in half. And I sat outside his room, and I started shaking. I'm like, holy shit. There's no floor to where we're going. I have no idea what's going on now. And I mean, prices were soft. People would come in and give you the keys to their house. You may have had a second trust. They give you the keys and say, take it, I don't want it. Prices went down. In an area where up until then, everybody's like, hey, we're in Northern Virginia, government-based stuff, we're secure. Prices could never go down in Northern Virginia. That was the 90s. So what happened? Deregulation. Too much money was pumped into the system, and a collapse happened. Now let's move forward to 2025. Okay? 2025. The government said anybody can buy a house. Remember I keep talking about buyer pools? You know, we're always looking for that buyer pool. The buyer pool went like this. Anybody can buy a house. Can you fog this mirror? Yes, you can buy a house. No money down, no closing costs, 5% interest. You can buy this house. Got it. I made the statement in 2005, I could literally get a ham sandwich alone in this market if it had a Social Security number. You give me a ham sandwich with a Social Security number, I will get you a house for that ham sandwich. So, of course, the buyer pool went like this. Prices went like that, right? Well, it was all artificial because what happened was the government first said everybody can have a loan. And then things started to go bad, really bad. And the government went like this. In 2007, they went like this. Oh, only the best people can get a loan. Anybody can get a loan. Buyer pools like this. Nobody can get a loan. 20% down, perfect credit. Job's got to be for 3 years. You know, they tightened the credit so bad that the housing prices plummeted 20%. Along Leighton Hall Road in Bristow, people were buying new homes for $635,000. They were having to sell them at short sale now, and I'll explain that in a second. Short sale for $395,000 to $410,000. They had a loan on it to $650,000. They owed $650,000. It was worth $400,000. So at that time, in 2008, 2009, 2010, you were either in foreclosure, in a workout with the bank, doing short sales, and we had to become experts on short sales and foreclosures. Talk about a horrific time. Now, here's what's very important. So if you start in 2002 and you take the price of a house and it goes like this, there's a pricing and then there's the inflation rate. So if that same house just rose at the inflation value, it would be this line. But the pricing went like this. It went way over, 20% higher than the value line. So in 2007, 2008, 2009, it went bam, and it went right back, but it leveled off at the value line. So it went up and it went down. And it rode that until 2016. So what happened back then? The government expanded the buyer pool by allowing everybody to do it. Then they tightened up the money supply so that nobody could get a loan, and that's what happened. So we've been in that static group, and I remember going to a football game. Stonebridge was across the way. Stonebridge is in Ashburn, and I remember looking at everybody in the crowd going, all of your homes have fallen $250,000. Everybody, that whole bleachers, all their homes had devaluated. If you don't think that's a scary time, and that could happen again, stick around, right? Stick around. So we worked our way back up. By 2015, 2016, the value line and the prices of the homes have got to the point where they were back in 2005. Everybody now could sell their house, and they did, and they dumped them. They dumped them on the market. I remember I had a $1.5 million house on the market, and I didn't get my contract. So I'm like, what the hell's going on around here? And I punched the button. There's 52 homes on the market. 2 are under contract. I had to go back to the seller and go, we got a major problem. We have a major problem. The inventory snuck up on us. They came out of nowhere. Everybody put their houses on the market. We need to be aggressive on our pricing. We need to do something. So if you're wondering why I'm so fast every week, inventory, it's coming, you see it today, how much it affects what's happening in this market, you're crazy. So this is inventory goes up, prices go down. Inventory goes down, prices go up. I'm going to show you some statistics in a minute. It's going to blow your mind. And it's going to give you total visibility on where we are with the market. And in order to operate in a market, you've got to have total visibility of where we are. So, prices got soft in 2016-17. Why? Because of too much inventory. So we have gas prices went up, and that caused inflation, right? Does that sound familiar? Isn't that happening now? Didn't gas prices go from $2.25 to $4? Inflation went up. Interest rates went up. It choked off the market. Ask any seller why they're not selling and moving up. Ask Donnie Samson. Donnie goes, I'd love to have that big house, but I'm not leaving a 2.5% mortgage to get a 7.5% mortgage. What are you, crazy? So it froze the market. Why are we all starving? The market froze. The inventory went down. It went down 40%. That's a hard thing to take. You look at companies like this, they're planning on inventory and sales, and this is what they should be, and our projections. Your projections are only as good as those gas prices, inflation, interest rates, and what's happening in the market. Now, when people go, what's going to happen in the future? You're like, who the hell knows? All you know is you're only as smart as the next inflation reports that come out of Wall Street. That's all we are. You know, the Fed, we're going to drop interest rates 3 times in 2024. Really? Really? I don't think so. I think you lied about that. The National Association of Realtors, interest rates are going to be below 6% by the spring of 2000. No, they're not. You're only as good as what happens when the next inflation report comes out, which is going to drive the 10-year treasuries, which is going to drive interest rates, which is going to tell us whether you can sell your house or not sell your house. So, why do I watch inventory? Why do I watch gas prices? Why do I watch the 10-year bonds? Because I'm waiting for something else to happen. I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. Because this week we walked in and we met with $9 million worth of sellers that are going to sell within the next 2 to 3 weeks, that have to have accurate statistics on where's the inventory, what percentage of these houses are under contract. Can you imagine having inventory way down and only 30% of the homes are under contract? How does that happen? How the hell does that happen? Every home we put on sells, and it sells immediately, and it sells $100,000 over list price. Then why are 60 to 70% of the homes sitting on the market unsold? What the hell's going on? Now, this is why mandatory for all realtors. There's no excuse, if you follow some of the rules, how houses sit on the market and don't sell. There are anomalies, like Daliera said, I've got a $4 million house, I get a $4 million offer from a buyer, it's all cash, it's no contingencies, and the seller says no. Crazy stuff happens, man. It's the general public. Things happen, okay? But there's no excuse why you put a home on the market, you test the home on the price, you make sure you have contracts coming in before you launch it live, and away you go. So I started this show in 2020 because I knew all of those things had happened. So I did it in 2020 and said, we just need to stay up in touch with what's going on every week. And I said, this will probably only last like 4 weeks because I don't have that much to say. And that was like 4.5 years ago. And it seems like every show is more important than the last show. Since 2020, since we started this, we had our pandemic. We locked down. Anybody ever been through a lockdown? I haven't. I've never seen anything like that. You couldn't even, I had to get sprayed down to go into a house for a listing appointment. She sprayed me down with antiseptic. Ever seen anything like that? There's some weird shit going on. I mean, it was crazy, right? So anyways, we're in there with masks, and so we've had lockdowns. We've had football season canceled, break my heart. You had, all sorts of kids' activities canceled. Kids are in school. Kids are not going to school. They're sitting at home. Does that suck? Graduation canceled. Prom canceled. Everything. What a disaster it was. Interest rates during that time have gone from 2.5% to 7.5%. Ever seen 5% interest rate increase in your life? Nope. Neither have I. That's some wild stuff right there. So this is happening as we're doing these shows and trying to adjust what we do up and down based on this. Inventory went down 35%, collapsed. The inventory collapsed. Prices are nuts. A $1.4 million house is selling for $1.6 million. Is that crazy? And when the seller goes, oh, it's hoping for 1.7, it's like, yeah, I know you were. But in 2020, your home was worth $2.1 million. Today, it's worth $1.4 million. Take the 1.4 and let's get the hell out of here. You just went up $300,000 in just that amount of time. Actually, my numbers are off because it's gone up 35%, so let's call that 1.45. Then they get 1.5. 1920 was 1.1 million. It's nuts. Now, I say these numbers, and you can just relate that to your industry because yours might be a $500,000, but now it's selling for $685,000, which is nuts. $700,000, it's nuts. So I'm going to make sense of all that here in a second. So the affordability has been blown all to hell. Imagine if you're a young couple and you got a job, you've been through college, you got your jobs, you're going to go out and find a house, you're like, I'm sorry, the interest rate is what? And the payment is what? The payment went from $3,000 on that house to $7,000 on that house. Same house now. Prices went up, interest rates went up. What the hell's going on? Can you imagine being a kid trying to buy a house today? There are no homes to buy. The inventory was down, coming back. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But, you know, you had buyers, a lot of you had buyers, you'd go out and you'd submit 5, 6, 7 contracts and lose them all. And you're like, I can't in good faith tell you to pay that price for that house because that's not worth that. So, you know, inflation, 8%. Who thought after all these 2% inflation years we'd see 8% inflation? I did. I'll tell you how I knew. Gas prices went through the roof. When gas prices go up, it's followed by food prices going up. And I don't buy this 3.5% inflation right now. That's that's ridiculous. You go to the grocery store. I mean, I've never looked at it and said, $2.50 for this little thing of beans? I'll wait. I'll live without beans. $2.50, a little bean thing like that. Are you nuts? Those are $1. $1. So I don't want to hear any of this. Inflation's down to 3.5%. It's not. Something's going on. So we had 10 contracts for every listing that we had. We had people throwing home inspections out, no appraisal contingency, coming in with a lot of cash. You know, that the contracts we have are crazy. No home inspections until June of 2022. Until June of 2022, we never saw one home inspection, over 300 sales. But in June of 2022, things started to change. Buyers got more control. There's a little more inventory out. Buyers got control. Then every contract had a home inspection contingency in it. Every one of them. The first 4 we did, the first 2 kicked out. Just kicked out. Said, nah, we decided we don't want that house. The third one cost about $40,000 in things we had to fix up, right? So after that, how do we adjust to the market? Got it. Call Bob Lamb in. Bob Lamb is a home inspector that does it for sellers. Everybody wants Bob Lamb's number? I'll let him know. Bob Lamb went in and inspected every house before we listed it. He has a 100-page report. I just said, I just want to know about the electrical, heating, cooling, plumbing, roof, and foundation to make sure we have no moisture in the basement. That's the only thing I want you to check. But Bob's got to give 100 pages. But guess what? It worked. Because every single contract, they pulled the home inspection out. Without Bob Lamb and the pre-home inspection, we lose millions of dollars of contracts. Millions of dollars of contracts. So there's adjustments you can make when the market shifts. Having the contingency removed is powerful stuff, right? The other thing we did, we said, well, market's a little crazy. I'll tell you what we're going to do. instead of launching a house on active, we're going to launch it during coming soon with all the marketing and the social media and the geofencing and the targeting buyers and all the rest of this stuff. We're going to do that in coming soon. And then the Wednesday before we launch, I do a Zoom, and I get on the Zoom, nobody else, just me, and I tape it. And I go, I'm looking at the people coming to see your house. And I don't want the seller on there. I don't want the other agent on there. I just want to be focused so the seller can watch this, right? I've got one seller is a dentist, the husband's an accountant. They can't get together. That's okay. Watch it when you're ready. Everybody watch it when you're ready. I said, I'm looking at, you only have one favorite. That's not enough. We need at least 6 people that are favoring this house. Your buyer pool is only 75 people. We need to have 200 people in the buyer pool. And I'm literally looking at MLS, Showing Time, Google Analytics. I'm looking at all these documents where they can see it. They can see what I'm looking through. And I come to the conclusion that we're good to go. We're ready to go. Let's launch at 145 or whatever we say we're going to launch at. But 50% of the time, I'm like, we are at the wrong number. We are not at the right number. We got to get down to 1.4 or 1.3, or we got to get to the next $50,000 level. Without the predictive analysis, we are screwed. Because we would launch the house, there's nobody coming, nobody's going to look at it, it's not going to sell, and we're just going to broadcast to the market that this house is not worth $1.4 million. So when I drop to 135, there's going to be no contracts coming in at 1.4. Nothing. Because I've already proven it doesn't sell. So the predictive analysis of telling the seller 1.35 is not our number. We need to get to 1.3. This is a very strong recommendation. This is a 100% recommendation. We got to get to 1.3. Every single seller goes, I'll do it, 1.3. They go to 1.3, and we get contracts in for 1.45. We had 2 of them for 1.48. 2 of them, right? The average over, when we drop the price, because when you talk to the seller, when I talk to sellers, I'm just looking for the buyer pool. If I can find the buyer pool that would come in to see this house, they're going to fall in love with it. They're going to love it. They're going to look at it, and then they're going to say, I've got to have this house. Why? Because 70% of the houses are overpriced or underprepared. When they see your houses, not only is it well priced, it's kind of a little low. And the agents around where we work know that I'm going to have to bid this thing up if I'm going to get it. So here we go, right? So the predictive analysis, we have to change pricing on 50% of our listings that we go out. Now, for a personal stand and make sure the sellers feel comfortable, the seller's thinking, and let's stay with that number 1.3, 1.35. Let's go with 1.35. That's what the seller wants. I think it's more like 1.3. There are agents walking in the door going, oh, I think it's 1.35 all the day. So what does the seller do? They go with the other agent, they put it on for 1.35, and it sits and sits and sits, and down it goes, right? So as a realtor, you want to help the seller not make a mistake. We're trying, if you pick another realtor, I feel like I've not done my job, you've made a mistake. You're going out where 70% of the houses are not going under contract. So I've got to convince you. So what I did was I said, look, you think 1.35, I think 1.3. Let's test 1.35 during coming soon. Let's give that a shot. Let's do all we can. Let's blast it. Let's master blast it. You say 1.35, I say 1.35. Let's go. But then when we look on Wednesday and say, it ain't 1.35, it's 1.3. But let me show you the 25 homes that we just reduced 50,000 and show you that they average 93,000 over list price on the sale. And they all sell in the first weekend, and none of them have home inspections. So that's our strategy, right? So because of 2020 and what's been going on is so crazy, we had to adopt the predictive analysis, which again, I don't care what happens in the future, I'll never list another house without it. Never, ever, ever do another house without doing a predictive analysis. So if that's not a part of your regular, if that's not a part of our Samson Properties protocol, you're making a huge mistake. I consider myself one of the best pricers in the business, and 50% of our listings have got to go down $50,000 because they did not find the buyer pool at the higher number. But we do at the lower number. So all these things have happened since 2020, right? It's been a crazy market. And so what we need to do is monitor fuel prices. I go to the oil fields. How much are we pumping? That's why, no offense, I don't know whether you're a Republican or Democrat, scares the hell out of me when they start talking about shutting down all the oil fields and shutting down, get natural gas and not pumping pipelines. And I'm all for electric cars in a responsible way. Let's get to electric. Let's save energy. But for God's sakes, if those fuel prices go up and we've emptied out our oil reserve, we got a problem. We're going right back to 1974, folks. So that's what drove inflation in the 70s. That's what's driving inflation today. The inventory, that's what drove things back in the 90s. That's what drove things in 2015. So we got to watch the inventory. So those are the interest rates, inflation, inventory. Those are the causes. And the effects we can see clearly by saying how many homes are under contract in this market. So let's say you're going to sell a house, and I come to you and go, okay, well, the market, we've only got one competitor, and they're overpriced by $100,000. They're not a competitor. They've been on the market for 30 days. Let's write them off. You're all alone. You have no competitors right now in the market. We got to get this on. We got to get it going. We're going to have a price. We're going to find the buyer pool. And when they start bidding on this house, we're going to say, there's no house within $150,000 of this house price within a 2-mile radius that else you can bid on. So don't bluff me. We're it, right? And then we get our price. And the seller knows it. The seller knows that we've done our homework. We know what the competition is. We know what the inventory is. We know what how many people are under contract. We've dissected the market. And I'm not talking about printing a report from Realtor Property Resource or any of that other bullshit, right? Because they see through that. They're like, oh, here's a report from Zillow. What the hell does Zillow know about your house? First thing I do, listing appointment, I said, let me show you what the estimates are on your house. 1.5, 1.3, 1.4. It's like, well, what is it? Is it 1.3 or 1.5? Which one is it? You're $200,000 apart. Now, we can't be $50,000 off for the buyer pool. So immediately, those guys are discredited right out of the gate. So you walk in with a Compass report or some Keller Williams report or a Zillow report or RPR, we're blown out of the water because we're going to look at this. This is, when you talk to builders, they build them. They build their own sticks and bricks. They don't bring them in on a truck. They build their own stuff, right? So we're going to build it for them right in front of them. So it's important that we have these tools. So I'm going to talk about the tools now that you need to know over, what's happening in the market today. So I'm going to try and read this to you because I know that it's a little hard to see. It's a little hard to see for me too. But the green is the prices that have gone up in the past 4 years. So if you pick a place like Vienna or Oakton, you can see most of them have gone up 35 to 45%. So the prices have increased 35 to 40%. Now, understand this. Inflation has only gone up about 22%. And they're up 35%. So what does that tell you about our pricing? How much over, Ava, you're an intern, how much over valued are our houses? If they went up 35% and the inflation only went up 22%, what's the difference in those two? 13%, right? Good answer. 13%. Our homes are 13% overvalued. Does that mean they're going to crash? I didn't say that. They could come gliding back down and inflation comes up, but they're going to meet. You're going to meet the inflation line down the road. I'm not sure whether it's going to go like this or go like that. We're going to find out. The red you see here, that's the inventory. Over the past 4 years, inventory, the average inventory is down 35%, right? So if 35% the inventory went down, that caused prices to go up. Well, what happens if inventory comes back? See the bottom one? That's the 30-day, I think that's the 30-day inventory, and this is by town. Vienna went up in the last 30 days 71%. So if you don't think I'm watching these like a hawk, you're crazy. And when I show this to the seller, they're like, inventory's back 71%. Can we get this on the market tomorrow? When can we get this on the market? How quick can we get this on the market? And I'm not bluffing. I mean, I'm trying to get on the market before the rest of the inventory. When people say, well, if interest rates come down 5.5%, there's going to be a run on the bank, and everybody's going to be out buying houses, and prices are going to go up. And I say that's wrong. Because as soon as prices go back down, Donnie Samson and all the people that are sitting on those 2.5% mortgages, they're going to start moving. So the inventory is going to go up. Inventory go up, buyer pool go up. That's good for us, right? A lot more transactions are going to happen in the market. But if you don't monitor where the inventory is, look, Vienna's up 33%, Oakton's up, McLean is kind of down. So the first thing I look at is inventory. Again, this is what killed us in 2015, 16, and 17. There is the inventory by city. This is more current inventory. This is what I just did, so we're up 55% over in Vienna. And you can see these charts are available weekly at caseysamson.com. So if you want to go to caseysamson.com, print them out. Take them to a seller. I don't care. But under the market snapshot, you're going to see these charts, and you need to know what's going on in your. So let's look at the success rate. This is what kills me. I got to get a little closer. My eyes aren't that good. So the success rate is how many homes are on the market, how many of them are pending. Forget the active contingent, because I don't count those as successes. When it's pending and it's on its way to settlement, that's a success. So if 10 homes are on the market in McLean, only 2.3%, 2.3 of them are under contract. There's 7.7, right? Am I using the right math? 7.7. 70% of the homes are not under contract in McLean. Now, their inventory is low, so what the hell's going on? And you're going to see that in a minute. Actually, yeah, I'm going to show you that in a minute, as soon as we get to the pricing section. But look at the success rate out west, okay? Aldi, Ashburn, they're doing just fine. But remember this, anything under 40% is a buyer market. So what would I do with this right here? Anybody got any buyers over $1 million? Anybody? Buyers over $1 million? Okay. I show them that chart right there. The luxury homes, over $1 million. What market do you work in? You got it. So you've got Oakton, you've got Aldi. It take me 5 seconds to arrest and Herndon one. Yeah. So you are in luxury homes. You're in a buyer's market. Congratulations. Good luck. Get them off the sideline. Get them out there. Get them in a house. Interest rates are at 6.75. Get a 2-1 buy down. So you're at 4.75, 5.75, 6.75. Sometime in the future, we should be dropping our rates. Refinance at that time. As Sarah says, marry the house, date the rate, right? So I would use these charts to say, buyers, time for us to get off our ass and go find a house. Because whatever reason, and again, so when we list a house, we're going to be at the right price, and we're going to fix it up correctly, and we're going to make sure that we have buyers coming in. But not everybody does that. 77% of the homes in McLean have evidently not done that, not done their homework. So you want to go in with your buyer to a house that's been sitting on the market for 45 or 60 days and say, it's not really that price. Let me show you what price it really is. This is the value of the house. This is what we're willing to pay, right? So when you have to bid a house up, you're overpaying for the house. But when you come in by yourself and everybody's gone, and the realtor's been telling the seller, you got to drop your price, it's not worth this much, and you come in and go, yeah, I concur. It's worth $1.3 million. It's not worth 1.45. It's 1.3. And I can prove it. I'm not trying to gyp you or, it's an emotional time. I'm not trying to steal your house. I'm going to prove to you that it's worth $1.3 million, not a penny more. And that's what we're willing to pay. By the way, I'm going to need a home inspection on that, right? So if it's been on for 30 to 60 days, you have control of the transaction. And to my sellers, I said, do not worry about that chart. Don't worry about it. I know it's a buyer's market. Don't worry about it. We're going under contract. We're going to do it on the first weekend. We're going to get 50, 75,000 over list price, 100,000. That's why they get disappointed. I got 100,000 and the seller was disappointed. Actually, it wasn't 100,000. It was 125,000. It was 1.8 was the list price. We got 192. And for some reason, there was not, let's take you to the Vienna Inn and have a few pops. Let's celebrate. And it was like, is that it? Is that it? Like, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, and again, I'll look at this. Vienna is doing better, so 50% of their homes are under contract. Now, why is Vienna doing so well and McLean not doing so well? I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have to skip at all. Okay. Here's McLean right here. Now, I'm going to point something out. The first cone is Arlington. The average home, 3,000 square foot home, that was built in 1990, costs $1.7 million. This is why this chart is hugely important when you're a listing agent. The McLean 3,000 square foot house is worth $1.78 million. The Vienna house is worth $1.38 million. So what does that tell you? The same house across Route 7 costs $400,000 more. So when I'm listing a house in Vienna, where do you think I'm marketing the house? In McLean. You're looking at McLean? Have you seen this? Have you seen what you can get in Vienna for $1.4 million? Are we jacking their buyers? You bet your ass we're jacking their buyers. Why would you pay 1.8 when you could pay 1.4? Right? Vienna's a cool town. McLean's a cool town. 400,000 is a pretty big number. Right? So this switches. Where am I looking for buyers? I'm not looking for buyers in Vienna. I'm not looking for buyers in Oakton. I'm certainly not looking for buyers in Centerville. I'm looking for buyers in McLean. So that changes the whole dynamic of your marketing for your houses. Sit down with the seller and say, 80% of my buyers are coming from Arlington, McLean, or D.C., or looking in Arlington, McLean, and D.C. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with a seller and say, we're going to go get somebody from McLean to buy your house. And they're like, that is wild that you would say that. Because we were looking at McLean. And we found this out here in Oakton. It's like, yeah. But the technology today is a lot more sophisticated. Right? So our back office is state-of-the-art stuff where we're going to target those McLean buyers, those Arlington buyers, those DC buyers, and they come in with their contracts. Now let's say you've been looking at a 3,000 square foot house for $1.8 million, and you're like, that seems like a lot of money. I can't find what I really want, Then you come out and you see it in Vienna at 1.4, and there's going to be a bidding war going on. They're like, Jesus, a 1.4? I'll give you a 1.55. What do I care? I'm still $250,000 less than the house I was just looking at, right? See where the big numbers come in? They're coming from McLean. They're coming from Arlington. They're coming from D.C. They're coming from L.A. They're coming from, a guy said they were bidding on I'm trying to get the numbers right. They were bidding on a house. It was 145 or something. Everybody was in at about 155. Everybody. We had 6 contracts in at 155. Guy goes, hey, man, will 165 get me in this house? I'm like, mm-hmm. No contingencies? No contingencies. Mm-hmm. He goes, in L.A., I can't buy an apartment for $1.65 million. And I could buy a big house like that and have my kids walk to Madison. That's awesome. So he paid $165. Why? Because it didn't mean anything to him. The numbers just they're not the same. They're not the same as a person selling a home on Cottage that's coming in going, oh, 145 is a big number. I'll go to 1.5. And an L.A. guy's going, I don't give it. Go to 165. I can't even get an apartment where I'm coming from. They're coming from Seattle. They're coming from Oregon. They're coming from the West Coast. They're high tech. They're rolling into town. They're looking in McLean. They're looking in Great Falls. They're looking in Arlington. And you got to bring them to your town. I sell a lot of homes in Centerville. Where do you think I'm going? I'm marketing to people in Vienna. Hey, you looking in Vienna? Hey, you know, if you come out here, you can buy that house for $973,000. Virginia Run, great neighborhood, right? So tells a story to the seller of a couple things. One, the inventory is not returning, right? We're down 34% over the 10-year average. So up there in the inventory, we're down. The success rate, only 23% of the overall homes in McLean, 21% of homes over $1 million, over 1.3, only 21% are under contract. So when I'm talking to a seller in McLean, I'm saying, look, we got to be a little cautious. 4 out of 5 homes are not going under contract, which means A, you need somebody that knows how to get it under contract, and B, we can't get too aggressive on the pricing. This is how we use this. And if we're looking in Vienna and it's a Vienna seller, I'm absolutely going over the difference in pricing between McLean and Arlington, and it makes total sense to the seller. Seller goes, bing. Well, I'm interviewing 5 agents. When you're done with this, they're like, yeah, I just called them all and told them pound sand. They sent over a listing agreement, let's get this thing rolling. That's how powerful these things are, not only for our knowledge of how do I operate. There's Vienna. 50% of them are under contract. We're doing just fine. So we can get a little more aggressive on our pricing. We're $400,000 less than McLean. We can get a little more aggressive on our pricing during coming soon. And then if we can't find the buyer pool, we'll duck down under the next threshold. There's Haymarket. If I'm Johnny G in Haymarket, Johnny G's making a killing. By far the #1 agent in Haymarket. He's on our team. And I'm going to talk when I'm done with this and we do questions and answers. We are expanding our team. We brought Johnny G on in Haymarket. We brought Ferris E-Ways. And even though it's the Ferris E-Ways team and the Johnny G team, it's powered by our team. We price everything for them. We give them all these documents, and their business is going through the roof. So we're going to expand 2 to 4 more masterminds that do 20, 30 million a year, and we're going to get about 10 people that do $5 million a year, and we'll bring them on and start using some of these tools. But that's enough for the commercial. So this is what Johnny G uses, and now he goes in and he says, our inventory is still down 35%. It really hasn't increased that much at all. The success rate is horrible, so we got to make sure we're really smart with what we're doing. But I'm going to get buyers come out here from Vienna and Oakton and all these Centerville because our house is younger, better, less expensive if they just can drive to Haymarket. So I'm going to market your house in those markets, and nobody says that. Nobody says that. So that's the Haymarket thing. And I've got, we can produce these real quick for anyone, but I think that's it. Oh, this is just another pricing thing that's on there. And Justin, we can turn this off now, but this shows that the blue line down on the bottom, that's the prices back in 2020, and the top one is the prices today. So you can see how some markets have done better than others. And when you see that like McLean has gone like this, it's like, okay, you're overpriced. You went up 50%, everybody else only went up 35%. Let me give you another example. Let me see if I can see it here. I need the general pricing one. Whatever, turn it off. You can kill it. There is a chart. I may not have it up, but there is a chart. And the chart is showing how much is everybody. There, whoa. I think you got it, man. Wait a minute. Let me go back. Let me just whip on back there. Let me see. That's success rate. That's inventory. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to wing it. Turn it off. Over the last 4 years, pretty much everybody's gone up that 35%. And Leesburg, I think, is about 44%. Aldi went up 62%. No, I'll tell you what, Ashburn went up 42%. And the 2 surrounding places, Leesburg and Aldi, went up 62%. Why? Everybody moved out west, right? I can live out there, not live here. I can work from my house. I don't have to be tethered to the office anymore. So they went up that big. Ashburn is at 42, and they're at 62. So A, it tells me that they may be overpriced and Ashburn may be a better deal. But B, it also tells me they were going out there because they were looking for bigger lots. They were looking for more room. So you can find more room out there. Maybe the Ashburn lots weren't big enough, and that's what held them back. Maybe prior to 2020, the prices increased higher than everybody else because the Metro was coming out. As soon as they heard the Metro was coming out, maybe there was already inflated prices prior to the Metro hitting, and they just didn't go up as much, right? Whatever the reason, you can look at it and go 62, 62, and 42. That might be a better deal over here. Let's look at Ashburn, right? So that's the way you use the tools. And I cannot emphasize enough. You can kill that, Justin. Is that? You can kill that. That's just propaganda. Justin, are you here? I lost him. All right. Yeah, if you can just kill that, we're good. Oh, you only see me? Oh, okay. You don't see the propaganda. Good. 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 All right. So that's basically a history lesson on where we came from. Because in order to know where we are and where we're headed, you've got to know what to look for in the future. You've got to know what tools that we need to use as realtors to make sure that we don't get stung in a market like this. Are you going to be the 70% of the people whose homes are not under contract or the 30% that are under contract? Because the 30% under contract are getting paid. The other 70 is a nightmare. So, the pricing is important. The predictive analysis is critical. The using tools of inventory and knowing where your clients are. The pricing, as always, is number one. But that's the way you adjust and working through this market. My name is Casey Samson. You've been listening to Coffee with Casey. We come to you, this was a heavy one, where we come to you every Thursday and talk about market strategies and market conditions and how important they are to working our way through the moving sands that are the real estate market of 2024. We'll see you again next week. Bye now.